it was such a powerful experience to be in a position to, share, my love of people and my love for them in that moment through literally a 3-4 second hug, 5-second hug. And the power of that, of just appropriate physical touch and just, I don't know, just share love, share a vibe with somebody. Welcome to the EQ for Entrepreneurs podcast. Like most business owners, you already know you need good business and marketing strategies to scale and be profitable. But at some point, you've hit the dreaded wall where you feel stuck and frustrated. EQ for Entrepreneurs is for business owners and leaders who are honest enough to admit that they just might be the ones holding their business back and are brave enough to change that.
We're Noble and Kathy, and every week we're having candid conversations about all things emotional intelligence and how growing that has allowed us to get out of our own way and is radically transforming both our businesses and our personal lives. This is the secret sauce strategy for modern entrepreneurs who are tired of hustling without seeing results and want to grow a business and a life that they love.
Entrepreneurs, leaders, and influencers. So this is going to be a fun episode. It's about hugs and the power of hugging. Funny story, we went to Australia 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. And so for those of y'all who don't know me, I am a second generation hugger. And I'll tell you that story here shortly. We went to Australia. Being a second generation hugger, like nobody is safe that is around me from not getting one of my hugs. So the couple that was hosting us, they were at the airport, they pulled up, and of course I'd never met them. They'd never met us before. And I went and gave the guy a big giant, I call it a big poppy hug, a big giant Noble hug. And he said, "Wow, you like to give cuddles." I said, "Cuddles? What are you talking about, man?" He said, "Yeah, cuddles. That's what you just did to me, man, is you gave me this big giant cuddle." And so I thought it was really funny that in Australia they call hugs cuddles. And there we even have some listeners from Australia. So to all you Aussies out there, big giant shout out to cuddles and the power of cuddles, the power of hugs, which I'm going to get into a little bit. So I want to thank you all for watching this on YouTube or listening to this on our podcast, EQ for Entrepreneurs. Now, obviously, for any of you that have been following us for any length of time, know that EQ, emotional intelligence, emotional quotient, emotional intelligence, emotional health is not just for entrepreneurs. That's just kind of what we initially branded it with. Emotional health and emotional intelligence is for everybody. One of the guys that's going through our 8-week course right now is an engineer, a software engineer, and he's been an engineer for his whole professional career, I think for like 30 years now. And he said, "Man, now I'm going to be in, kind of managing people here very soon on our next project, and so I need some people skills." I thought that was funny. So EQ is for everybody. Also, thank you all that have been following us and sharing with us your own emotional growth journeys. They're inspiring. Thank you for rating, reviewing, subscribing, sharing our podcast, maybe particular episodes that have impacted you with some of your friends or family members that you feel they might add value to. Really appreciate that. And thank you for I guess, following us on our own emotional growth journey as well. Again, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. So back to hugs. Here's my next story of hugs. When I was a kid, junior high, my dad started to take me to occasionally, he wouldn't do this very often, but occasionally he would take me to the ER with him. He was an emergency room physician for 35 years. And he would take me into the ER with him and, bring your kid to work day kind of thing. And what was fascinating as a 11-year-old, 12-year-old kid, to see you're not coming to the ER because you're feeling good. Typically, you're coming into the ER for some sort of emergency. So, not all are necessarily emergencies, but, many of them are. And it was fascinating. Well, and my dad was a big, giant guy. He was bigger than me. He was 6'3", 6'4", 285 pounds. So he was a big, big dude, but a big, giant teddy bear. He was a phlegmatic melancholy, for those of y'all who know that personality, which means he was very chill, very laid back, never got excited, never got bummed out, just super steady, very personable. And so here's this big giant, and he's got, the white coat on, looks like a doctor, has got a stethoscope around his neck. And what would happen is, in some of the hospitals he would work at would be small kind of farming community hospitals, not some of the big inner city hospitals. So, it was a more kind of more chill kind of, environment. Well, anyway, folks would come into the ER, and some of them would be freaking out to a degree. And I would watch my dad. So here's this big, giant, potentially imposing, potentially threatening presence who would come up to them super peacefully, super chill, and hug them, and literally wrap his big, giant arms around them and hug them. Now, obviously that was we're talking 20, 30 years ago. So this is not in the days where, he'd get sued for looking at somebody wrong or whatever. This is all pre, anyway. So where he could do that. So he would, and so initially, of course, seeing this big giant presence coming towards them, they're already kind of anxious and stressing. And then seeing this big guy, like, man, what's about to happen here? It's the doctor. And of course, a lot of folks have stress and anxiety about doctors anyway. And then boom, to get embraced by this big, giant, peaceful doctor. As a kid in junior high, watching this scene unfold, and as soon as he would hug them, it was literally like you could watch the anxiety and stress and pain and fear melt away. It was amazing to watch. It was fascinating. And then he would kind of usher them into the, whatever room was available. And then, because now they're calmer, he was able to have a more, unhindered conversation, having to navigate through their stress, anxiety, and emotions. Hey, where does it hurt? What hurts? They were calm. They were calm. Not that the pain went away necessarily. It did in that moment, which was fascinating again to watch. But, again, once he sat them down and stuff, that, pain and stuff, they were able to okay, well, here's where it hurts and here's what happened and that kind of thing. And kids to adults, it was just fascinating. The power of a hug, the power of physical touch, appropriate physical touch. And here, so now I'm switching back to the Australia story. One of the most fascinating experiences in my life, and maybe one of the highlights of my life, when I was in Australia, we had a speaking engagement, speaking to, I think that particular crowd may have been 1,000 people. And I don't remember if it was in Sydney or Melbourne. We went to all three. We went to Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth. All just amazing, wonderful people. I cannot say enough good stuff about Australians. Well, anyway, one of the speaking engagements that we had, and I don't even know how it started, but of course, once the speaking engagement was done, we'd spoken for maybe an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and came off stage. I think the event was done, and someone had come up afterwards to maybe ask a question or something like that. Well, of course, I I'm a hugger, boom, or cuddles in the Australia verbiage. I hugged him. I gave him a cuddle. Well, what was fascinating was, I think I've shared this once before on our podcast, but my hugs are a little bit extra long, not crazy long. I mean, some of them are a little long, but there's a reason. So the reason I go an extra couple seconds on a hug is I pray for people, just to myself. I'm not out loud. It's just, and so, and of course I hadn't told anybody that's what I do, but anyway, so I'm hugging this guy. Well, pretty soon someone else comes up and says, "Hey, I just want a hug." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, man. I'd love to give you a hug." Pretty soon, boom. Pretty soon, and someone actually has I've got a picture of this somewhere. I don't know if it's on my Instagram or where it is, but there ended up being a line of 75 to 80 people at any given time to get a hug. And what was interesting is most of them were young men. And I just thought, wow, I had a lot of thoughts. One was, what a blessing that I'm able to do this for a lot of these guys here. And, that I was able to pray for all these guys. And it was such a powerful experience to be in a position to, share, my love of people and my love for them in that moment through literally a 3-4 second hug, 5-second hug. And the power of that, of just appropriate physical touch and just, I don't know, just share love, share a vibe with somebody. And in this getting to be post-pandemic, society, culture, the power of physical touch, I feel like, is more important than ever. Again, appropriate physical touch. The power, even a hand, it doesn't have to be, again, I'm a hugger, so it doesn't have to be a hug, but even a handshake, a intentional handshake, I think is powerful. And I guess don't take that for granted. And then also in your family, I've met a number of people, in fact, a number of people that I've hugged over the years, and I've probably hugged thousands of people now at this point in my life. The number of people that I've had say, "Noble, I've never had appropriate physical touch from another man, ever." From men and women. I've heard that from both men and women. And man, it's so where are you at? Where are you at on the physical touch scale? And why? Why are you? Why am I a hugger? So for me, I told you my story. I'm a second generation hugger. I was able to witness this and see the power of what, and of course, getting hugs from my dad. It was powerful. He's this big, giant guy kind of wrapping himself around you, from this gentle, peaceful guy. It was a powerful experience. And you could feel his love for you. And so, and I'm not, again, this is not about, hey, everyone should become a hugger. That's not the point. The point is, where are you at on the physical touch scale, and why are you there? Where are your stories? What are the stories you've developed around physical touch? Have you had some maybe physical, mental, emotional abuse that has given you a certain perspective, unhealthy perspective maybe around physical touch? Not that your stories or how you have survived and your coping mechanisms have not served you. I'm not saying, again, this is not to, again, beat anybody up. This is maybe, do you need to take a look at your views, your perspective on physical touch? What stories do you have around physical touch? What emotions do you have around physical touch? Here's what I do know. And again, there's lots of research on this. I don't have it quoted. I don't have it in front of me. There's a lot of research on the power of physical touch. And where a lot of the research has been is around with babies who have received physical touch, appropriate, gentle, nurturing physical touch versus not receiving any physical touch. There are a lot of studies around that. And then also adults, just the power of a hug, the power of a handshake, just something to think about, something to evaluate within yourself. Where are you at on that scale? And again, I will just tell you as a hugger, again, not that you have to be, but as a hugger, and someone who's hugged thousands of people over my years, is there is so much healing and power in physical touch. The number of, I have had both men and women get emotional around a 3-second hug, a little 4-second hug. I pray for folks. So I'm not saying you have to do a 3-second hug or whatever the hug is, but just a gentle, loving hug with no intention, no inappropriateness, and just out of pure love for somebody. Man, I have just seen some powerful. I've had, again, we've done a lot of speaking engagements over the years. I've had people come up to me years later and even say, Noble, you may not remember me, you may not know my name, but you hugged me, and it was life-changing. And man, it's a good feeling for me also to be able to share maybe one of my gifts with other people in terms of loving people and just the power of physical touch. Another thing are kids, man. A family just walked by. We're at church here, Fervent Church. A family walked by. They have 8 kids. And this whole family, all 8 kids, man, when they see me, they all come running up to me and give me a hug. And just how it makes me feel. I love it. I love these little kids that, come up and give me a big giant hug. And it's just in that moment, there's so much, just in that moment, you're present, you're hopefully emotionally present, you're physically present, and you're sharing that space with somebody else in that moment, a little kid, grandparent, a loved one, a friend, in that moment, to share that space, that time, that moment with somebody is very powerful. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you all. For those of you all that would like a scientific emotional assessment, check out eqforentrepreneurs.com/training. Or if you like, a speaking engagement or coaching for your organization or for you, you can go to that website. If you want to check out our 8-week EQ course, you can go to eqforentrepreneurs.com/EQA and get on the waiting list for our next course on emotional intelligence. And thank you again for rating, reviewing, sharing, subscribing. Have an awesome day.